Welcome again to the Franciscan Hermitage here in Indianapolis as we celebrate the Epiphany. Um, my dear friends, the word epiphany means you get immediate insight or you see in a completely different way. And it was Jesus and Mary who were exposing the divinity of the universe in the infant Jesus. So it was exposing the divine presence in physical form. It's very interesting to see how people get these insights and how God works in helping people to understand the spiritual dimension. There was a couple by the name of Leslie and Lee Strobel, and both of them were atheists. And Leslie connected herself with friends who were Christian and eventually decided to become a Christian. Well, that created contention between the two because the husband was an adamant atheist. And so what he did is started to pay attention and saw how his wife had changed in such a positive way since she had become a Christian. And so he was doing his work was writing for a newspaper in Atlanta. And he was now getting very confused about his belief in atheism when he saw his wife changing in such a beautiful way with the idea of Christianity. So he was trying to figure out, how can I find out really if there is a God or not? And he was mentioning this to some of the people who were working at the newspaper. And the owner of the newspaper told him, I want you to write an article, do the research, and then have it printed. And so he did a great deal of research. And at the very end came out to understand that there is a God. And his story was written up in the newspaper and created a great deal of interest among the general public in Atlanta. And eventually he put his story into a book, and it eventually became a full-length feature film. And my dear friends, this one man has influenced a lot of people. But what happened was, he first got the insight. And then by sharing that experience with other people, they got into this epiphany of understanding that there is a divine presence and that the entire universe has been created and sustained by divine, cosmic, unconditional love. And I read this story also about Hugh Ross, who was astrophysicist, and he was taking a plane and was called up by the attendants saying that they had double booked his seat, so they had to bump him up to first class. And when he sat down, the person next to him said, my name is, and said, I am a quantum physician and I'm an atheist. So Hugh tells him that he is an astrophysicist and that he is a Christian. He thought, well, this is going to be an interesting trip. So anyway, the quantum physician was asking Ross all these questions, and he had the answers without any difficulty at all. And by the time they got finished with that flight, the atheist said, how do you have all these answers at your fingertips? And out of his briefcase, he pulled his book and he said, it's right here. And he said, he opened the book to the table of contents, and all the questions were actually in that index. And eventually, this quantum physician became a Christian also. You know, God's plan is really perfect. If you can imagine two people in the same plane being asked to take an upgrade into first class and to be seated together in first class so they could have this conversation. I mean, you know, this is absolutely fabulous. And, you know, if you look for the divine in your life every day, you will find that divine presence. That's what Epiphany is all about. And in the very same way that Leslie and Lee Sobert, by their example, led so many other people to understand the belief in God and the belief in Jesus. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And the first reading, you know, is all about rejoicing because we have this information. And in the second reading, Paul is saying, I've had this revelation and I'm giving it to you. And that's the way Christianity grew at the very beginning. Simply people experiencing or sharing their experiences. You know, my dear friends, we're in a new liturgical year. And, you know, this is the time when we can do these resolutions. And I just might have you think ahead to this week. How can you be a more authentic Christian by your example to all the people with whom you come in contact every day? See what you can do about this week, being more conscious of being a kind, gentle, loving, compassionate person, so that people will be able to see the divine in you and help them to see the divine in their own person. Please remember, you are a powerful spiritual being, and all you have to do is radiate that divine presence to others, and our world will begin to change and get us eventually to world peace. Have a wonderful week, and God bless you all.